All right, let's dive right in. Have you ever thought about what connects the melody of your favorite song to the very thoughts inside your head? Well, it turns out there might be a hidden pattern, a kind of code written into the fabric of the universe itself. And today, we're gonna crack it. So our whole investigation starts with this one central mystery. Could there really be a single elegant rule for building complex things? You know, a blueprint that could explain everything from the intricate shape of a seashell all the way up to the architecture of artificial intelligence?
Think about this for a second. The rhythm of a song, the way our own brain cells branch out, the jagged shape of a coastline. On the surface, these things have absolutely nothing to do with each other, right? But what if they do? What if they're all just different expressions of the exact same hidden blueprint? That's the mystery we're digging into.
Now, if we're gonna solve this thing, we first need to identify our prime suspect. And in this case, it's a truly beautiful and profound mathematical concept known as a fractal. So, what's the engine that makes fractals go? It's a simple idea called recursion. The best way to picture it is to think of those Russian nesting dolls. You open one doll, and what's inside? A smaller, identical one. And inside that one, another, even smaller one. It's a super simple rule. Put a smaller version of me inside. That, when you just keep repeating it, creates this surprisingly complex structure from almost nothing. And what you get from that recursion is something visually stunning: self-similarity. This is the magic of fractals. It means when you zoom in on any part of the object, it looks just like the whole thing. It's a pattern that repeats at every single scale. You've definitely seen this before. Think of a fern leaf, where every tiny little branch looks like a perfect miniature of the entire frond. Okay, let's actually build one so you can see how this works. We'll make what's called a coach snowflake. You start with a dead simple triangle. Now, we apply one rule. On the middle third of each side, we stick on a new, smaller triangle. That's it. Now, we just do that again, on every new little line we just made. And again, and again. And what starts out so simple, boom, it becomes this infinitely complex and gorgeous shape. It's the perfect example of how a tiny, recursive rule can generate endless complexity. Right, so you might be thinking, cool math trick, but what's the point? Well, here's our first huge clue in this investigation. This isn't just a mathematical party trick. This exact pattern, this recursive engine, seems to be the fundamental operating system for life itself. Get this. Scientists are now talking about something called the programmatic cell. They found that the way our cells pack themselves together, how all the little parts fit and how resources flow around inside, it's all perfectly described by the same recursive spiral patterns we find in math. This isn't just a coincidence, it's how the cell works efficiently. And once you start looking for this blueprint, you see it everywhere in our bodies. It's in the branching of our neurons to maximize connections, and it's how 6 feet of DNA gets packed into a microscopic nucleus. Nature uses this fractal strategy again and again because it's just so incredibly efficient. It really seems like life itself is built on recursion. Okay, so nature uses this code. That's amazing on its own, but here's where things get really, really wild. In the quest to build true artificial intelligence, researchers have started copying this exact blueprint from nature. You see, most AI we've built until now kind of thinks in straight lines, in a flat, grid-like world. And that's why it often struggles with really complex, nested ideas, like human language. But fractal AI is totally different. It's built recursively, so it can naturally think at multiple scales at once. It works in these curved, flexible mind spaces that are just perfectly suited for mapping out the complex, messy, and hierarchical way the real world actually works. And this is just incredible. This famous fractal pattern, called a Sierpinski triangle, is being used to design the physical computer chips to make them more efficient. And it's being used to design the AI software, the decision-making models that run on top of them. It is the exact same recursive logic, from the silicon all the way up to the thought. And this isn't just a one-off idea either. We're seeing a whole family of these fractal AIs popping up. Each one, like the Sierpinski decision tree or the Kleinian networks, uses a different kind of fractal geometry to tackle a different kind of complex thinking, from making decisions to solving really tricky problems. But just when you think you've figured it all out, that intelligence is all about perfect, repeating order, there's a twist in the case. It turns out, sometimes the real breakthrough comes from knowing when and how to break the pattern. This quote right here captures a really counterintuitive, almost radical new idea in AI. What if, what if we intentionally introduced a little bit of chaos, a little bit of drift? What if that's the secret ingredient to true creativity? The idea is called cognitive drift. And basically, it's about letting an AI wander off its pre-programmed path just enough to stumble onto something new and unexpected. So when it's controlled, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's how you get an AI to escape a mental rut and have a genuinely original idea, kind of like we do. And this leads to something even bigger, something that could change everything. Maybe this new kind of mind needs a totally new kind of logic, a logic that goes beyond the simple true or false of our computers. Researchers are now exploring fractal logics, where truth isn't an on or off switch, but a spectrum. A statement could be, say, 75% true. It's a logic where truth has continuous values, just like a fractal has a fractional dimension. Okay, so now we have all the pieces of the puzzle. Let's put them together and finally solve the mystery we started with, this hidden pattern that seems to connect everything. It all starts with physics. The recursive, self-similar pattern that governs how energy flows most efficiently in a vortex is the exact same pattern that nature uses for efficient growth and organization inside a biological cell. Which, you guessed it, is the exact same pattern that AI engineers are now borrowing to efficiently organize knowledge inside an artificial mind. Which leads to the absolutely mind-blowing conclusion that this might be the fundamental pattern that structures logic and reason itself. So what does it all boil down to? One single idea, recursion. A simple rule, repeated, creates staggering complexity. It's not just a pattern that we see in the world, it's a pattern that actively builds the world. It builds life, it builds intelligence, and it may even build the very logic we use to understand it all. And that leaves us with one final, massive question to think about. If nature's fundamental code for creating intelligence is really this simple, this elegant, and we're only now just beginning to truly understand and harness it, what are we going to build with it next?